That's the keynote here. Why I chose that is, well, today is the day of the seafarer. I echo all the nice wishes and all the good messages that all my diligent speakers have pressed. For me, the key message here is, for all of us in the room and for the seafarers, I would like, and we would like, that every seafarer can go home safe to their families every single time. 0 accidents, 0 injuries. That's the goal. That's the goal we need to reach as an industry, to make our industry more sustainable, to make our industry more recognizable, and to make our industry more acceptable with the newer generation. This is not just a key message, because we would like to go home to our family safe every single day after work. And this should also echo exactly similarly for our seafarers. So that's the introduction. I wanted to say thank you to CSN Network for inviting me, or inviting us here. Thank you also to the chairman for the introduction. Thank you to all the distinguished participants and my shipping colleagues, and most importantly, some of our customers who are here to support us. Thank you very much. So, moving on. This is not new. We spoke about it in depth earlier today, and this is a challenge when you come as last speaker of the day. I would like to think that it's save the best for the last, but I'm not sure what was the strategy here, but my challenge now, of course we know the shipping challenge, my challenge is how not to repeat the points and the very impressive points that my colleagues have already shared, right? And I will try to do my best. So, most of the incidents and challenges is with human error. This was echoed in multiple presentations, so I would not go in depth into that. What is the challenge? We all are facing a challenge where we have to not only assess, also to retain and train the crew. This is a challenge each and every one of us is facing in different formats. The challenges might be similar, but the formats might be different on how we are addressing it, right? We also have the big goal on the entire shipping industry about the decarbonization agenda, the digitalization agenda, making sure that we are sustainable all the time, right? This is a very important challenge we all are facing in this room. This also creates a lot of pressure on the seafarer, not to mention the impact this has on the mental health, which was also touched earlier by some of my colleagues. The amount of pressure the seafarers are in. One of my colleagues from Colombia, he mentioned that now is the time. Even he feels that we are quite isolated. Imagine how it is for our seafarers on board the vessels, right? So why does all this matter? Why does this conference matter? What our actions matter? This matters because this challenge is faced by all of us first, but it affects each and every person within an organization, within the shipping community. We can think about it that, okay, I might be isolated from this, but no. And I would like to tie the thread of how training of seafarer can kind of impact even the customer rate and impact the insurance cost for the vessels, right? Yesterday, I attended a dry BMS seminar. It was a very informative seminar. We spoke a lot about the challenges we are facing as an industry in the bulk sector as well, but mainly focusing on what happens when there's an incident. What happens once there's an incident on board? The cost of the incident, right? And on top of that, the injury or loss of life is the worst thing that can happen to any one of us here. So, in order to prevent, we need to take the right measures, which we all are doing effectively as much as possible. But is it enough? That's the question we need to ask all ourselves. I ask this to myself every day. Is what I'm doing enough every day for our seafarers? Can I do something more? Can I do something better? Can I do something different? And this is the question that keeps me motivated to be in shipping for my 26th year in shipping. Moving on, right? So my main goal is kind of dividing it into 3 pillars. And why 3 pillars is because when we go home, or when you go home after this presentation, if anything you can take from the presentation is the 3 pillars. And I will break it down into the simple pillars because my memory is very weak, I will promise you that. So I won't remember most of the things, but I want to keep the focus on the 3 pillars here. What are these 3 pillars? So the first pillar, as I will call it, is the competence. We spoke about the minimum safe manning. We spoke about the minimum certification required for the seafarers. But is it enough? Is that really enough? There is a reason it's called minimum. This means that if we want to be better, if we want to run our vessels more efficiently and effectively, we need to do more than the minimum. And that's the key point here, right? So focusing on the competence side and not only on the certification side, that's one step we need to focus. And that was also very rightly pointed by one of my fellow captains here. He mentioned that, are we missing the competency part? Because sometimes we are so focused on the checklist, on the certification. Are we missing that part, right? We need to focus on the competence part. The second pillar, right, is about digitalization and dynamic in a compliance. So if we say compliance is also equally important, the vessels need to pass inspections daily, the vessels need to enter ports daily, the vessel need to go through right ships, TMSA, SIRE, port state inspections, internal vettings, external vettings, and so on and so on. And I'm sure there's much more to this, but the message here is that in order to make sure that the vessels are running, we also have to have the compliance part, right? One thing is about simplifying the SMS. That was very rightly mentioned, that we should definitely look, and I fully 100% agree. So the SMS has become a monster that we don't know how to tackle it, unfortunately, sometimes. So while we deal with this, it's also important to do the training on the SMS. One of my captains, he said, 9 books in the room, and please familiarize yourself and join on board. I could have vouched to that. I remember those days when we joined the vessels. So that is on the compliance part. Moving on. The third pillar is on the well-being. So why the well-being part? With all of this, right, the seafarer is actually in the center of all of this. When you think about it, we are all here to support the seafarers who are running the vessels. We are here because of seafarers somehow. And this is the reality of our business. So we need to make sure that their well-being is taken care in different formats. A lot of good ideas were shared by the panelists earlier, focusing on the travel, training, focusing on contracts, focusing on mental well-being and wellness. But these are some of the tools that can support the journey of mental well-being for the seafarer. So now we have seen the 3 pillars that we are talked about, right? Now I would like to get into the 3 pillars on what we can do, right? So the first pillar, and I realize I'm 1 slide behind, apologies for that. So the first pillar is, we call it the ATR tool. So if anything you would like to take back, it's just assess, train, and retain. And this seems a very simple thing, but the crew managers in this room, the fleet managers in this room, they know how difficult the task is. It sounds very simple. Just assess the crew, train the crew, and retain the crew. But the amount of external pressures we have. When we joined as seafarers from your batch, for most of the captains and chief engineers, how many of your colleagues are still on the vessels now sailing? Approximately, can someone give me an answer, an average? The average says that normally it decreases every year, and at the end, 10% of them are left at sea. There is already a shortage, which we spoke about it earlier, right? So if we don't fill this gap, how are we going to make sure our vessels are going to run? And we are talking about the most advanced vessels. We are talking about dual fuel, ammonia, LNG. Now I was the other day, methanol of some of them. And not to venture into the decarbonization agenda, because that itself is a completely separate topic. But These vessels are extremely advanced. We cannot train our seafarers the way we trained them many years back. I saw a very nice picture with a kid with the smoke blowing out of his ear in the previous presentation. Actually, that is myself. When I see a training video or training that is still done today on the vessels, that was done when I was a cadet. And that's myself in that picture. I can imagine myself, because that's the amount of smoke that blows out of my ear when I see a training so old and outdated. And then we say, why are seafarers not interested in training? I think the question is, how can we make the training more interesting for our seafarers? And that's the question. How can we make it more attractive for them to do it? So, assessing, right? There are various tools that all companies are already using, I'm sure, but we can also dive into more on how we make sure that these tools can be either simplified or enhanced depending upon the organizational goals. And there's no one-size-fits-all in this industry sometimes. That's the challenge we face. Every company is at a different stage of development. Every company is at a different stage or a path or a journey. And we need to make sure that at that stage, what fits best is the solution. Getting on to the training part, right? This is, for me, my bread and butter. This is one topic which is very close to my heart because I truly believe that this has direct impact on the bottom line for the vessel owners, not to mention a direct impact on the safety performance of the vessels as well. And it is historically proven. It's not just me standing here saying a fact which I believe in. It is proven with different surveys done in the industry in the past that this is a fact. Now comes the challenge. Now we have invested a lot of time, money, and efforts to assess them. We have spent a lot of time, money to train them. The question is, how do we retain them? Because one thing is you do all the hard work, but there are so many external factors who are trying to pull out the seafarers, either from your company or from shipping itself. Shipping, it seems, is not as lucrative as it was 20, 25 years back for people to join. This is the feedback we get at every university, every shipping college or cadet school we talk to. So, different tools need to be incorporated to make sure that the retention can be increased as much as possible, right? I know all companies measure retention. I am aware of that, right? And the goal is even a few percentage better retention can actually show excellent performance on your vessel's safety and efficiency. So, the main thing we spoke about digitalization is how do we get all this integrated? It cannot just work in silos because all the tools are very nice tools, but if they don't communicate with each other, if they don't integrate with each other, then the tool is not helpful as it is supposed to be or as it is designed to be. What we are doing in our company just to support and help our customers, our seafarers, crewing managers, and shipping managers is in one slide. I have just put one simple slide explaining the journey, what we follow in our company. So in this journey, we try to start with the life cycle of the seafarer. So we start all the way with the job application. So this is while getting someone into the company. That's phase one. So that's what we call it the assess part, right? The phase one, getting into someone in the company, recruitment, either of a cadet or of an officer, is the recruitment process. How can you help in the recruitment process? So step one is getting the job application recruitment. Step two is, are these people ready for your vessels? Is assessing them, because one thing is to train them, but if you don't know where should we start, where's the gap? So gap analysis is an important part of this journey, right? And that's where the assessments come in. So with the assessments, these assessments kind of give the seafarer also an idea of his or her skill set, and the crewing manager on the shipping company an idea about it. So the person taking the decision, which is usually the crewing team, the crewing manager, they can make sure that the right decisions are taken for the right people and send them correctly on board the vessels that they're supposed to go on. Then we get into the learning management. And within learning management are different tools. I mean, I saw an excellent tool from one of the presentations where they had this AI-driven technology. A lot of digital tools are available. We are also using AI, we are using VR, we are using the traditional e-learnings, gamified learnings. We are also using cloud-based simulations. All these training tools are to increase the training efficiency, but also to support the reduction of cost for the shipping companies. Because training is also a very expensive affair. But I many times talk to ship owners, ship managers, and it's like, the training is too expensive. My only answer, and I fully agree it's expensive, but if training is expensive, imagine the cost of an incident by not training. Yeah, this is the last slide, honest. So that's the goal. And then we get into the performance and retain part. Within the performance is basically having quality performance appraisals and making sure that the retention is taken care of by different formats, making sure that we retain them with various tools. We also have a lot of survey modules, which many companies are already doing as a seafarer's engagement survey, either on a yearly basis or a quarterly basis. But these are some of the tools that we are also using in our company. So we are here at the end of my presentation, on time, Adonis. So the key takeaway here is that, if anything, is please, if the 3 pillars on assess, train, and retain, for me, that is the message, right? If you take anything from this presentation or my thoughts or anything, it would be assess, train, and retain, and how you could incorporate that within your organization to make sure you achieve the best operational and safety efficiency. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Aashish. Excellent presentation.